Welcome to Altenberg into Sächsische Schweiz in Saxony in Germany. We're at the former DDR secret test track, ready for the deciding run in the sixth race of the BMW IBS four-man bobsleigh World Cup. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us wherever you are. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me John Morgan on a misty day, John. Drama in the first heat.
Well, the fireman, this young decathlete from Riga, who's starting to come on, get himself ready for the Olympic Games, where he medaled in both the pre-Olympic tests last year. And Kibermanis, he's not in a bad position. Bronze medal position on this German track, and it's close. Chasing down a Russian, Maximum Andrianov, who's the Russia tree sled, who's fighting with the United States to get a third sled into the Olympic Games. And Andrianov puts his best heat of his life down, but I kind of think he went when there was a little vortex on the track where there was moisture and reduced friction, but they're chasing down this guy. This is a legitimate contender here. Niko Walton, 5:14 start, not the best start, fifth best start, but he was disqualified in the two-man after a bronze medal for an illegal sled. Today, he takes his vengeance out in the first heat on the track and the rest of the field. He's got a 10/100ths lead, and I got to believe it's his race to lose.
Yeah, 10th ahead of Maxim Andrianov. If Andrianov stays in the medals, that will be a big shock. Kibermanis might do, took a second consecutive bronze here in the two-man yesterday. Friedrich hasn't won a race this year, but he's had 2 bronze medals in the last 2 outings. And further on down the field, you can see the rest of the contenders. The fastest 20 from the first heat go through into the second heat. Both runs count. Total time decides win, lose, or draw. And outside the 20, Loic Kostega, France, Patrick Baumgartner, and Rico Peter of Switzerland, who crashed heavily down at the bottom of the run, didn't make the cut, but I don't think he would have been driving again anyway. There's Niko Walton. He was pretty sanguine last night, and there's Rico. Well, he wasn't going to make the heat, but he was very badly banged about in that crash. It was a high-speed crash down at the bottom of the track, and just reminded everybody that some of the best drivers can get it wrong here. Well, air temperature hovering around 0, pretty misty, moist, as you can see. A little bit of snow this morning. It's drizzly as well, and the ice refrigeration system will be on hard. Even so, it couldn't stop the speed really disappearing from the track in the first heat.
Well, it's typical Altenberg weather. They have all the fronts come in here, and a blink, it can change quickly.
So Joel Fearon of Great Britain there from Coventry originally, he said his greatest hate in life is cold weather. Bobsled, great choice of sport for him then. Lots of fans here supporting the local drivers from Saxony. That's our leader, Niko Walton, and his teammate Francesco Friedrich. But into the second heat, Alexei Stulnev of Russia will kick us off. Nick Polonyato of Canada will follow him. And then the last to go will be the leader. So we go from 20th place down to first place. And there are some very close battles in the order again here. Well, this track is always regarded as one that's very difficult to drive. The taxi bobs can get you down nice and safely, but if you want to be on the edge for racing, you take the risks. 20 sleds to decide the gold medal here in Altenberg, Germany. Alexei Stulnev of Russia in a woefully disappointing 20th place after the first heat. 1¼ seconds off the lead.
Well, he had the 21st start position, which anybody from 14 on dealt with a dug-up, soft track. But the start, 5:28 in the first run, or this run, 5:25. The 17th best start didn't help his efforts. But Martin, he did post his best finish of the year yesterday, a 6th place in the two-man competition.
And since the sleds finished the first heat, there's been 45 minutes to re-prepare the track. So he's going to get the very best ice there is. He could be getting on for a second quicker than his first heat here. But don't expect that from everyone else.
Visibility, the big Kreisel coming up, the personality of the tracks right here. Look at the flag in the end. See that flag? The athletes see the flag, they got to dive out of that curve.
Speed here is about 4 kilometers an hour quicker than he could get out of the sled in the first heat. That's because the ice is hard and fresh.
13, 14, 15. Keep your eyes on those bottom curves. That's where Peter from Switzerland crashed, was down to 13, 14.
Across the line, 54.86. His first heat was a 55.39, so he's gone
4500ths.
Yeah,
More now.
7/10 of a second quicker.
39 and 14.
Now again,
5300s.
Again, everybody else isn't going to improve by that much. By the time we get to the last sled, they'll be doing really well to hold their first run.
He had a bad first run, too. He was pretty sloppy coming down the track, which here, up, you don't want to see the sled disappear. Now watch for the flag at the end. Watch the nose of the sled. If the athlete's in a spot where he just wants to get off the curve, he can. But if sometimes the athletes drift above that flag, and you'll see a big change of direction on the nose of the sled.
Yeah, because if you don't steer off the Kreisel, you land on your head. Nick Polonyato of Canada, 19th position. Good day yesterday in the two-man race for Polo. And in the four-man, he has a little bit more of a struggle on his hands. Again, a late start draw didn't help. Worst results of the season so far, a pair of 16th places in Winterberg and Eagles, the last two races before Christmas.
Had a bad start, 5:18. Derek Plug from Calgary, Sam Giguere from Sherbrooke, and Ben Coquel on the brakes. He's from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, 5:22. Not as good as their first run. Speed, keep your eye on that speed. One thing is the start time, the other thing is the start velocity. That's how the athletes enter the sled, get in, get down with cat-like movements, I like to reference.
71.8 miles an hour from Stulnev at the next clock, which is just going into the Kreisel at the end of the next straightaway.
Bang.
Well, he has the same tap as the Russian did, 71.5, so a little down on Stulnev.
He should come up 117.9 or better. 160, not very good speed. The Russian.
Oh, and a big skid. Now this is trouble.
Niko Peter crash.
It is trouble. They're all linked together, those corners. You're in late in one, and it's the devil's own job to get the sled back. Now he'll come across the line.
He'll finish 20th.
So he will get points for 20th place, and he will come to a halt right under our window and then start to slide back down the hill.
They should all stay in the sled. We're still perplexed why the track crew hasn't figured out how to catch the sled up at the apex where it stops.
You know, everybody knows this is a tough track to get down. There were lots of crashes in training, and frankly, I think it's inexcusable that athletes are subjected to more danger after the finish line.
Now, the athletes are educated enough to stay in the sled. This little vacuum or this little bathtub acts like a pretty good protection piece, and there's somebody out right there. Looks like the brakeman's out.
That's Ben at the back.
Coquel.
He's going to try and stop the sled.
But
and you can hear them calling to each other. In fact, that's not Ben, that's Derek Plug, I can see from the beard.
Look at the grooves in the track. That could be for the Niko Peter crash, too.
Yeah, well, both sleds will have left their mark, won't they? I can hear there, that's Nick.
Pretty gritty driver. This Nick Polonato's had a pretty good year. Nick on the left, Sam Giguere on the right.
Yeah, he's
okay, Nick?
Well, he's looking a lot more compos mentis than Niko Peter.
Derek Plug.
Yeah.
He's a Red Bull ice crash guy.
Yeah, that crashed ice. Wow, that's
crashed ice guy. Well, this is the first of the mistakes. He's 11, 12. It's okay here, but he gets into 13 too late. Look at the skid in 13. He has to really yawn it down. Then he comes into 14 too late. And he's no matter how much hard he steers, he can't get off the curve. He can't get off the curve. Bang. We saw a lot of issues there in the first run, and I don't think it was visibility.
And that is brutal.
He was probably a half second faster in the second run than his first run.
Now, is Ben Coquel in the sled there? There looked like there was nobody at the back.
No, he's in the sled.
I see three heads, and Derek Plug was the one who got out at the low point. I'm not sure he was.
They're giving him a time. They're giving him a time, so he must have had four guys in the sled.
Well, there's only three of them there.
I don't know if our crew, there he is. So he ejected? I wonder if he ejected out of the sled.
I'd like to see that shot from behind again, because it looked as though there was a gap at the tail.
Well, initially, Martin, I disagree with you. Now I'm thinking if he was separated from the sled like that.
Well, the hit they took on the wall is enough to knock anybody out of the sled.
Just told Derek, Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Collect your thoughts, guys.
Yeah.
Nick Polanato's had some great season.
For these guys and for Rico Peter, St. Moritz next week is going to be like a rescue. It is so smooth. Well, there's Ben Coakwell walking up to the finish.
I would think they're going to be DQ'd then, because if he wasn't in the sled...
I'm not sure he made it across the line. Need to see that shot from behind of the sled going away from us down towards the final corners. Track hold while they rescue the sled and make sure the crew are A-OK. And the doctors are down there. They're very experienced here, as they are at all the tracks, of course. But look at the crowd. I mean, this is absolutely rammed to the rafters, this
place. But that's the crowd there, the crowd on the Kreisel, the crowd at the start, and the crowd between 9 and the, you know, there's my first event here in 1987, there was 20,000 people here. It was, you know, the first event ever on this secret East German sliding track, and people know their bobsled, luge, and skeleton. Much like going to the Montreal Forum in Canada and watching Canadians hockey. I mean, the crowd there is probably the most experienced hockey crowd on the planet. Bobsled, luge, and skeleton, although the people in Berchtesgaden, Königssee, where we go in a couple of weeks, might argue that point.
Well, same deal there as well. You know, big sport in a small town that's got a lot of history invested in the track, and it's exactly the same deal here. Well, there you can see the next sled waiting to go. It's the sled of Austria's Markus Treichel. And, of course, the nerves are already jangling. Nobody gets in the sled and goes down here without thinking twice about it and a big intake of breath. And when you are waiting because the guy in front of you crashed, then that adrenaline will be pumping through the veins, no question.
This track persona is very much like the old-time bobsledding when it was a man against the mountain. And here on top of the track, everybody's warming up quietly.
Yeah.
In Winterberg and Innsbruck and Park City and Calgary and most of those tracks, everybody's walking around, how you doing, where'd you go last night, or your family coming to town, everybody's talking to each other. Not on top of this track. It's quiet.
Okay, here we go. Track is clear. Die Bahn is frei for Markus Treichel. Careful on that ice, it's slippery. Of course, they protect their spikes for starting with galoshes that they wear before they go to the line. And so Markus Treichel, Markus Gloik, Marco Rangel and Ekimeni Bassi, who is his two-man brakeman, now stripping down to their smalls. You can see most of these guys...
No green light yet.
No, but you see, look, most of these guys are only wearing that single layer of lichen, no burns vests. Still waiting for the 60-second clock.
There it is, just went.
Coach cleaning the spikes. Markus Treichel of Austria, 18th after the first heat in Altenberg, getting ready to go after a 5-minute track hold for the crash of Nick Polanyato of Canada.
Second-year World Cup guy who, out of nowhere, was in 6th place, end of the first run yesterday in the two-man. Much the way that Stolnev is up there in 2nd place in 4-man. Yeah. He went at a time. He was the first guy down the track. It was raining. A little vortex wind. I think the rain provided the film over the track, reduced friction. He fell to like 16th place in the 2nd run.
Race leader is Alexei Stolnev of Russia. Away goes Markus Treichel and the crew. First start, 5:25. They'll be ramped up on adrenaline and they match it, 5:25 again.
Speed on the left, 49.3. They should have been 49.5 or 6. The start time and the velocity are two different equations you got to match.
He's one of 3 sleds now covered by just 0.05 of a second. Him and the 2 British sleds that follow him at the start.
That's equal to what Stolnev had on the lead in the first run to him, and Stolnev just hit the numbers coming down, 24, 1:15.6. So he should get out of here on 118.
Matches the speed of Stolnev going into the Kreisel. Great exit. He's got better speed than Stolnev.
He's pretty good.
So he could find 3/10, but he's late and he's just clinging on to it.
125.3, way better than the Russians. This is good for this second-year pilot. Stolnev's been driving for about 7 years. 54.89. He goes 1800s faster. The Austrians like it for this second-year guy.
Yep. Well, again, he came out of the start shed behind Stolnev in the first heat. He was 22nd on the ice, Stolnev 21st, and he had a slightly better run in the first heat and again in the second.
I think the Russians will take notice that Stolnev, who finished 6th in the 2-man, did not have a very good 4-man race here today. And this is up top where the speeds are slow, and that's costly right there. And then here, look at this 13-14. This is where Polonado crashed. And watch the back right runner. It's airborne. He was on the same line. Not as bad as Polonado was able to get the runners on the ice and steer out of the curve freely.
Sturnev and his crew stalk off. How much of a slump has Sturnev in? Last year, 5th in the World Cup rankings for four-man. Currently, Sturnev is 16th. Okay, so here's that second of the 3 sleds covered by just 0.05 of a second. In fact, between Marcus Treichel, our current leader, and this man, Brad Hall of Great Britain, just 0.01 of a second separated the two of them. Brad Hall with a great time in North America. He claimed bronze in the four-man in Park City.
Okay, 5:12, 4th best start. Joel Ferret on the back, one of the fastest sprinters in Great Britain.
Yeah, trained by Linford Christie.
5:16. Watch the speed, should it be near 50, 49.8. You'll see the best teams with starts like that with 52, 50.2, 50.3, which is about 30.9 miles an hour, 31 miles an hour.
Well, because of his injury to his hand early in the season that severed all the tendons in his left hand, he didn't race here last year, so Brad Hall very short on experience on this track.
I don't think it matters. It's not good coming into the Kreisel.
Not as big a skid as he was in the first heat.
1:14.6. He's going to get out of here 1:17.5 or so if he's on point. 1:16. Not very good speed at all. Down to 11. He's a kilometer, almost a mile an hour down.
Don't forget he was only 100th in front in the first heat.
Treichel's going to get him.
Treichel had better speed at the bottom, so Brad Hall slips a spot into second position. 500s back. So Treichel found 600s of a second. There's the coach, Lee Johnson.
Treichel was smooth from 9 into the Kreisel. Brad Hall got the big four-man sports utility sideways. No speed on the way in. No speed on the exit of Kreisel on the way out. Results in him losing that lead and that advantage at the start.
Yeah, and the two guys pretty much on the same development curve. Second year in the World Cup. They haven't either completed a full World Cup season
yet. Yeah, but Marcus Treichel hasn't won a medal yet.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
Brad Hall did in North America. Here's in the exit of 9. Look at this. He had a kilometer, three-quarters of a mile down in speed on the entrance and almost a mile an hour down on the exit. And this is where you want to slingshot yourself on the bottom part of the track, take advantage of the speed lines, but of course, there's a few curves in between that straight line too.
So Brad Hall lies second, Marcus Treichel first, and next up is Lamindina, Great Britain, 12th in the race here. Last year, didn't make the cut in the two-man yesterday with Nick Gleeson, Andy Matthews and Greg Cackett on the four-man sled.
Gleeson's only 21.
Yeah.
Young guy.
New recruit this season from the 3rd Para. Lamindina, Grenadier Guardsman, day job guarding the Queen. 49
and change, 49.8. See, they had a lesser start speed by 300ths than their teammates, but they had better velocity. That's how they entered the sled. So there's one thing is to be able to run. The other thing is to get into this little bathtub and sit down efficiently.
2500s is the advantage over Marcus Treichel, and he was 500s up in the first heat. And again, came out 14th onto the ice, so he didn't have great ice to deal with.
1:15.3 should get it to 1:17 higher. 1:18, that's better than expected. Now can he get through 13-14 clean? Watch the runner tips here.
Treichel was quicker.
Pretty good, 125 speed. This is going to be enough to be the leader.
Yep. And by some margin as well. Marcus Treichel improved, but Lamindina improves more and opens up 500s by a further 2
Much better
tenths.
run, 3300s better in the second run for Lamindina, the guardian of the Queen. Much better second run down the track, and his teammates will be appreciative of that.
Well, he'll be happy with that.
They'll be happy that Altenberg is in their rearview mirror.
Well, everybody's happy when they're heading to St. Moritz next up, because it is just a wonderful place to race.
This is just a challenging place to race. Look for the flag. See if the variance in the nose, there's the flag. He dives out and he taps a little bit. A little late coming out of there, but not bad. Good speed all the way down the track.
Not as late as he was in the first heat. He got a big skid there, and that's, you tidy up one big error like that and suddenly the speed's there. Yeah. Lamindina, Great Britain, the leader. 5 down, 15 to go. We've seen a young driver who performed well in the two-man in the form of Markus Treichel of Austria, who currently lies second. Here's another young driver who's been having a great season, Dominic Dvorak of the Czech Republic, 15th place after the first heat.
So this is a 100-meter sprinter on the front. I say this driver's the fastest driver in the field. 10.900-meter sprinter,
yeah.
5:18. So let's see if they get 49.8, 49.7. See, the British had better velocity and lesser time there than the Czech sled. But this Dominic Dvorak is new in the sport as a driver. Started making some progress last year with a 5th place in the two-man event in the Eagles, his personal best ever. But this guy stays around for 4 more years. The Czechs have got something here.
Yeah, former brakeman. This is only his 3rd World Cup of the season.
Out. You see that way that nose of the sled went up? He knew he was late and had to make an adjustment. Speeds are not there.
Lamindine is going to climb the order. At the moment, he's in front of Markus Treichel. Now he's not. Now he's slipping 3 spots on the standings, and he'll come across the line in 4th place. So Brad Hall and Lamindine both move up.
But he's also the guy that drew #1 in the race. He had the best ice to work with, so the field comes back to him. You know, experience, and his line in the Kreisel. We talk about looking at that flag and getting out of there cleanly. He got to that flag, was late, and you saw the nose of the sled go up and then the transition out. So that's just experience, but this is almost a Czech home track. So,
well, they're closer to Prague here than they are to Berlin.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, in fact, it's only just further than Dresden.
Okay, now watch. This is the long straightaway. The speed before Kreisel. Look at Dvorak. He's got the 6th best speed here, but he erases a lot of it with, watch the way the nose here. Watch the way the sled goes in here. Watch at the end where the flag is. Look at the nose go up, and he's got to make that a steering adjustment down. Look at the speed on the exit. He improved a little bit, but not what Treichel did or Dean.
Yeah, that clean exit is vital. He really had to haul it off the Kreisel to save it from crashing. So Dominic Dvorak slips 3 spots. Next up is Austria's Benny Meyer, and he, with Dominic Dvorak and the next sled of Jan Verber of the Czech Republic, all 3 of them were covered by just 0.05 of a second as well.
I think the youngest guy in the field is the #3 guy, Killian Walsh. He's 20. He's a new addition to the sled because their other guy is hurt. Speeds, decent.
Good start, 5:22.
Yep.
Not as quick as Dvorak. Dvorak, an 18. Brad Hall, a 5:16.
But Dvorak hasn't had results like this young Austrian, 23 years old. He won the European Championships a couple years ago in St. Moritz, where we go next week. Accomplished driver, hasn't hit his marks yet this year. Speed, 1:15.6. So if he wants to be the leader, 1:18.
Oh.
1:17.9.
Not going to find it. Not going to find it, is he? That mistake has cost him speed, and that'll keep following him all the way down.
1:25 speed. He doesn't have that. He's going to be behind by single digits, though.
Going to be very close. We might end up with a tie. We had one in the first heat. So Lamindine picks off another one, and Benny Meyer slips a spot.
Not a good weekend for the Austrian Benny Meyer. He'll go to St. Moritz, where he's had success. 2nd place in the World Cup. That was the European Championship, and American had beat him, Steve Holcomb, so he picked up the European Championship a few years ago.
Meyer 2nd, Markus Treichel, his young teammate, in 3rd. Unfortunately for the Austrians, still 13 sleds to go.
Well, look at the consistency of the line. He gets to that line, or that flag, and he doesn't have to have the nose come up. He drifts out, but here's the exit. Looks pretty smooth. And this is not, though. That cost him the exit speed, and down below, you know, he lost by 600s. Could have been that 600s right there in that skid.
Lamindine in the background, getting the sled ready to transport. He's the race leader. And next up is Jan Verber of the Czech Republic. Now, he was tied to the 100th of a second with Benny Meyer in the first heat. Verber finished in 17th place in the race here last year. And at the moment, tied for 13th. If he breaks the tie, he'll be 4 spots better than he finished last year.
A lot of Czech fans in the crowd.
And look at it's absolutely rammed at the start here. And there's so much drama and excitement at bobsleigh start.
27. Well, he gives up time at the start. Accomplished driver. 48.8's not bad. No, that's not good. 49. So their velocity is way back. he's going to be 2/10 back, if not more, at this next class.
He was 1200ths ahead of Lamindine from the first heat, started 800ths of a second slower, and that gap grows.
Just a tap, 2 taps between 5 and 6, 6 and 7. This could get down to 20 or 25 here.
Now, in
22.
sled terms, this piece of kit they're driving is pretty elderly. The Dresden chassis from 2003 has its origins in the 1990s. The Bruno Mijon cowl on it is about 6 years old itself.
And he's fallen back more. 6, 124.9.
Wow.
Not bad speed, but he's going to fall 4 or 5 places.
Plummeting. He's going to finish behind his own teammate Dominic Dvorak.
Wow, that's a race.
No, he hauls himself in
by
front.
900ths he beats the... And don't think there's not a race within a race. Yes, they want to beat the British down below, but they want to beat their teammates to maintain that Czech #1 position.
Because if only one team is going from your nation, you want it to be you and not the nice guy in the other.
There's so many races within races here between countries, rankings. Not everybody goes to the Olympics.
Lamindine, the race leader.
Watch these taps. This is up top in the labyrinth. There's one tap. Watch the back end here. Here's another tap. So he was late for 100 meters, and those little taps, 1000ths here, 500ths there, down here, a little late, but he had pretty good speed.
There's no love taps on this track, is there? They all cost you. There's Jan Verber, slips half a dozen spots. 5, in fact. He's into 5th position. So Lamindine of Great Britain still leads. The guy's hanging out in the leader's box with 12 to go, but every sled now has a greater first heat advantage to play with, and that's the case for the 33-year-old Canadian Chris Spring, born in Darwin in Australia's Northern Territory. His first sport, every Aussie's first love, cricket, of course.
Well, the Springer has got some history on this track. 5:17, good start. Bad crash here in November of 2011, put Chris and a couple of his teammates in the hospital. I visited him in the Dresden hospital. A month later, he showed up at the World Championships with a cane, told everybody he'll be back. And not only has he come back, he's come back with World Cup victories, and he's now 2nd in World Cup points in the 2-man. And once in a while, he sneaks in the 4-man, too.
Yep.
600's up, 114.7. He's going to need the 117 speed here because the British had that on the way down.
Bronze medalist.
116.4. Now that's why it's a dead heat.
Bronze medalist in the opening weekend in Park City. Lamindine, the current leader, took silver in Whistler the next week.
Speed. Canadian sleds haven't had good speed. That's really when he got up high there. That's where he had his accident in 2011.
Joel Fearon, is there another baby on the way? 55.02 for the Springer. He slips
slower,
a couple.
2/10 slower. Boy, he got real high up there in 16. That was the spot where they had the crash in 2011.
Yeah.
Sled got away from him a little bit.
Another of guys on that sled, Derek Plug. He was in Nick Polignato's sled earlier, of course. They crashed down at the bottom of the track. Well, that's a late exit, and you pay the penalty for the next 3 or 4 corners.
He was green going in and red numbers coming out. Now watch this, how high he climbs. 2016, he hit the lip up there, and the sled stopped within 100 meters.
Yeah. The sled was torn in 2 down the middle. But Chris Spring came back and returns to Altenberg. Lamindine of Great Britain, the race leader, with 11 sleds to go. Poland's Matthias Luty next up. Now, he was only 500ths of a second in front of Chris Spring of Canada, but has the track lost any speed? The last 3 sleds have struggled to get close to their first heat performance. And Luty and the boys do the same.
Not very good starts. 28 start, didn't look like an explosive hit off the block. Guy on the left looks really small.
And don't forget, the guy at 3 took a long time to get in as well.
5:26, that's a little bit
a little better.
48.8, that's not 49.5. So his velocity's way back in the 2-man, though. He had deficient starts and did pretty good at the bottom. Top 12 or 14.
He had a really nice looking run in the 2-man yesterday, and he's a little like Dominic Dvorak, coming in like Brad Hall at that sort of 2nd, 3rd season of experience and really developing now.
Speed 114.5. That's not the speed he needs. He's 8 down, 117 high. Oh, look at that adjustment. That's why he's late. 1:15.8, no speed at all. Now the question is, how many slides is he
now he's
get it
hanging
down?
on.
How many slides is he going to fall?
Now he is just hanging on, trying not to wreck it before the bottom of the run, because he was later.
You can't make a mistake above Kreisel. Look at him skid across. 9th best time of the run.
Yeah.
Look at the British, the clowns, bunch of Monty Pythons down there.
Now, yeah, when he came late down there, it was whatever about the speed and the time and everything, it was just get the boys down safe.
Yeah.
And look at the body language. He knows that so nearly got away from him.
Yesterday in the 2-man, he drove great both runs. Here in the 4-man, first heat wasn't bad. The second heat, he'll want to forget it.
Yep. I'm sure he's looking forward to today after yesterday's run, but...
Watch the start. I talked about no explosion at the start. Watch these guys.
Oh.
Look at you're talking about, where's the cohesion there? That's one of the worst explosions without somebody slipping at the start that I've seen in a long time. Then here, you know, we saw the skid going into Kreisel, then down here, just had no speed. Watch a lady gets into 13, and then... Now let's watch the back end. Is there any airborne bottom right runner? No, actually, he had pretty good control there.
But now he's hauling it off every corner because he's getting on so late. He's running out of corner
but
before...
the start there was pretty deplorable.
Yeah, no, they completely lost their start. He's absolutely furious.
Furious or something.
Well, Simone Bertazzo of Italy gets off the blocks pretty quickly. 10th after the first heat. Because of the fog, there's no commercial pause. So they are going a couple of minutes earlier than they're expecting, perhaps, but...
49.1. I mean, not a very good start time by one of the most experienced, might be the longest tenured driver in the field. He's in the last World Cups of his life.
Yeah, very probably. We'll see him in St. Moritz, I'm sure, and probably Koenigsegg.
So that's that deficiency at 5:31 start. He's 1200s behind Lamondine at the start alone. So watch the speeds here. He's 6 down, 1:15.2. If anybody can get 118 speed, it's this experienced Bertazzo.
Well, don't forget, Bertazzo came second out of the start shed, so he got very good speed on very good ice.
He's got the best speed we've seen in the Exeter Kreisel since Lamondine. 126.1. This is going to 100. I think he's going to catch him.
The mist coming off the ice, and at the line, he's tied. So the Brits still lead. It is a top 10 finish for Lamondine.
But the Italians have something to laugh about, be positive about. They've had a tough season. But Bertazzo, does that show you what this? If you've got experience.
Yeah.
What you could do on this track?
It's a driver's track.
Driver's track.
Drivers love it because it rewards the driver. It's not a cruise and coast starters track.
And look at the crowd appreciative of the result.
Listen, Simone Bertazzo hasn't had a top 10 finish in 2 seasons plus. Bellissima. Very nice.
Little tap here, but a couple taps. But he goes in there with speed. Wasn't as good as Lamondine on the way out, though. He almost matched Lamondine's speed on the bottom. He has the best speed in the finish. That's why Bertazzo could eliminate the deficiency in the Exeter Kreisel. Great speed lines in the bottom. Simone, enjoy some time in the leader's box. You deserve it.
Well, there's 2 of the senior statesmen of the sport. Next up, one of the juniors giving away at least a dozen years to Bertazzo is Cody Basque, the 23-year-old from Whitehall, New York. Nate Webber, Carlo Valdez, and Sam McGuffey on the sled.
Not a bad start in the first run, but he needs to get down. 5:16 in the first run, 5:18. Should have 49.5 speed. 49.7. Good velocity, good entry of the sled. Now Cody Basque, who hasn't had great results on this track. 19th last night in the 2-man. Ooh, that hit there is not going to help his efforts. And he should 3/10 out. Well, with the lines that Bertazzo just had, there's no gimme here.
He was 3400s ahead of Lamondine from the first heat.
Better speed in the first run.
Yeah.
So then 118, 117.9.
Should hold on to this.
27.
73 miles an hour.
Oh, he really yanked it there. But he comes off pretty good. 25.
Got enough.
Kilometer and a half down. 1 mile an hour down to Bertazzo, but this is going to be enough for Cody Basque. Second best time of the run. 1900s lead. Brian Scheimer and Mike Dion have something to cheer about.
15th last year, guaranteed 9th this year. That's the progression you want from a young driver. You know, he takes 6 positions out of his result.
Best finish in Europe in 4-man in his career. And he could move up. Much better second run than the first. Last night in the two-man, he looked a little lost.
11th in the first 2 European races. Now he's in the top 9.
He had 1:14.5 in the first run. Here in the second run, with a much chopped up track, 15.1. Way better speed, so that means he had better up top. And then down here in the bottom, watch this exit. Clean. So, you know, he lost some time to Bertazzo, but everybody's going to lose time to Bertazzo. He had the speed line in the bottom.
In the red jacket, Gert Grimmer, legendary coach. So he's not watching us online this weekend. Well, he probably was. Next up is the Latvian Oskars Melbardis. Melbardis, silver medalist here 3 seasons ago behind Niko Walton. Had to sit in the sled in the two-man start yesterday because of a thigh strain. Yeah. Dalmans Driskins pushed the sled and the driver. But now it is a kind of 3.5-man push.
They went 27 in the first run. I bet you they got in early again. Yeah. So they got it really early again. He's got a bad back.
Don't forget how much he was hobbling
23,
around.
Still 400's better.
Yeah, that thigh strain is really aggravated.
49.7. That's equal velocity to the Americans who just came out. And this is the world champion from 2015, the silver medalist from the Olympic Games in Sochi. So he knows the speed lines. He's medaled on the track before, but he's only got a 300th lead. He's got to pull it out to 5 or 6 here. There's the 5, 1:15.4, better speed than the US. He'll probably get 118 and change here the way this guy drives. No, not very good speed. Down to 7. Only at 7, he should have been more.
He's only a whisker in front.
This is clean.
1/8 of a second.
5, it's better speed.
This will be the leader. Not going to move far up the order, but he will take the lead and seal himself into at least an 8th place finish.
Considering he's wounded, that's pretty good. He showed once he got in the sled, and he usually has start times probably down in the teens, 14, 15, so he should be up challenging a medal.
Last year he was 11th with that back injury he was just starting to recover from. In fact, it was his first race back, I think. Watch how much he limps, though. He's got a bad thigh strain, and he is anything but healthy this weekend.
Okay, look at the heads, are perfectly aligned. Let's get out of here with the flag. And then he comes out, hangs it a little bit, but shoots out of there to 11-12 with a pretty good slingshot.
They're so disciplined, the Latvians. They ride the sled superbly, and they load so smoothly. Oskars Melbardis leads with 7 still to go. Canada's Justin Cripps, top 7 in the first heat for the man who won his first race of the year in the two-man last night.
On his birthday.
And they broke a 14-year-old start record. The start record here dates back 22 years. How close do they get?
5:08.
400s away.
5:07 in the first run, 50.1. They should have better velocity in that. With that start, they should be 50.3, 50.4. We'll see a couple teams coming up with that 50.3 velocity, which is 31 plus miles an hour. Huge lead, 1/4 of a second. Cripps did not have a smooth run in the first heat in this big sport utility 4-man.
In the fog, whoa.
15.1, so he should come out of here at 118 with that speed. Ooh.
Swerving on his way down to the Kreisel, swerving on his way out of it.
That's average.
Well, is the track giving up its speed? Simone Bertazzo.
That's good right there. 125.6, excellent. Way better speed than Justin Cripps had in the first run. He could move up. This is a good run. 54.62, only 10 slower in his first run. Canadian coaches aren't really happy with that, but I think that's good enough to move up. If he would have had that in the first run, he'd be up there in the top 3. With that start time explosion, he's got a good start team. Jesse Lumsden, Shea Smith, Alexander Kopak. This is a very formidable 4-man start team Cripps is going to take into that Olympic Games.
In the first heat, they were the fastest starters.
And they will be in the second run, too. Up here, speeds are slow. He taps a little bit between 6 and 7. You can't do that. That 6 and 7 problem caused a little skid down here in the Kreisel. Didn't have great speeds in and out of Kreisel. Great speed in the bottom part of the track. So he found that speed line in the bottom.
Top 6 sleds with Johannes Lochner, our World Cup points leader, our 4-man joint world champion. He won this race last year. He's won 3 four-man races this year. Park City, Winterberg and Eagles. He's been undefeated in Europe so far this season. He's not going to win today.
He won on every German track last year. There was 4 races in the German tracks. He won all 4. Tied one of them for the gold medal at the World Championships. Good start, 5:12. Watch the velocity, 50 flat. See, they're 400 slower than the Canadians and only a 10th on the velocity. But Lochner had a run that he wants to forget. Look how clean he was there from 3 to 4. Let's watch the back end here coming up. See if he taps. Not just tap there, watch the back end here. Smooth. But he's in red numbers already.
Well, he was in red numbers right from the start because he was only 100th in front.
This has got to be 118 to have him have a chance. 117.6. It's dead heat. He's coming back. Now remember, Canadians had an unbelievable speed on the bottom. Lochner looks like he's going to match it. 125.5. It's right to the 100th. I got to believe it's going to be 4 or 500s in the green.
100th in front in the first heat. 100th behind in the second.
Look at Lenny Spies. Stand corrected. 125.4 and Canadians had 125.6.
He went from 100th in front to 100th behind, and that is a very tough way to lose a spot.
So that shows you on the bottom. Cripps had the perfect speed line. Lochner might have had the sled get away from him in 15 to cause, because he was up a couple hundreds going into that speed part of the track. This is 13-14. That's the bottom right runner. Smooth. What happens here? Does he skid? He's on the right side.
He rubbed along the wall. Well, it only takes the tiniest of corrections to cost you 100th of a second.
First time in 2 years he's been beat on a German track.
Well, that means that Cripps is guaranteed a top 6 finish. He leads with 5 to go. A lot of noise at the start for Russia's Alexander Kazyanov, the World Cup champion in four-man last year.
Listen to the crowd cheer, everybody. This is the best driver in the field. The question is the start time. 5:22, 8th best start. Watch the velocity. 49.4, way off the mark. So now he's got to hit Grand Slam home run. But the thing about Kazyanov, who finished 4th at the Sochi Olympics in both the 2 and the 4, with average start times, he's a great driver. He can do this. He's 1200s back. If he gets this stays to 1500s at Kreisel, he could find it down below.
The problem is the Russians still only have average start times.
115.3. He needs to get to 118. Challenge Cripps.
Whoa, Rocky off the Kreisel.
No, 800's back. I don't think he's going to catch Cripps. I think Cripps is going to medal.
Yeah, Cripps may well do, especially after yesterday. No, needs
half a mile
125. Nowhere near. He's going to drop a couple of spots. He's behind Lochner. Yes, he is behind Lochner. So Justin Cripps stays in the lead.
The Russians, it's simple. They have no start times.
So Kazyanov is 3rd with 4 to go. That means he'll be no worse than 7th. And apart from the one-off win in Whistler, that will be his best four-man result of the year. Well, he's had 2 8th places, a 10th and an 11th.
Next week we go to that super speedway in St. Moritz. Is very much like Whistler. Here, Exeter Kreisel wasn't as perfect. 13-14 here. These look pretty good lines here. Little back-end skid, but didn't have the speed of the Exeter Kreisel. When he saw him come off there and hit the wall, that cost him that 118 speed that he needed.
It's been a hard season so far for Alexander Kazyanov. So here we go. We've seen one of our four-man world champions, Hansi Lochner, who currently lies 2nd to Justin Cripps. Here's the other, Francesco Friedrich, from the Altenberg track. He comes from Pirna, just about a 30-minute drive away.
Candy Bauer, Martin Grothkup, Thorsten Margus. Very formidable team. Big guys. Oh, they aren't in smooth. There's a problem here. 5:08. The velocity's not going to be there. They're almost a kilometer down to their start velocity in the first run. And plus, he didn't drive well in the first run.
One here last year. One here last night.
1500s.
Not enough. Gap's coming down.
He better get this out to, it should be 12 at least here. If not, 20. Yeah, he's online. 15.9. Best speed. If he exits here in the 118 spot. Oh, there it is.
Much tidier looking run than the first heat.
He had problems here yesterday or in this exit. Not bad, 129, 126.4. Nobody's had that number. This could be a gold medal run. Wow, 54.51. That was a much better run by Francisco Friedrich, who's been struggling with equipment. He drove 3 different sleds this week in training. Settled on one yesterday. They got him a second place. I think that's a good run. If he would have done that in both runs, Martin, he'd be atop the leaderboard. He's going to medal, no doubt. Just the question is, he is medal. What color? He's going to get at least a silver because I think Andrianov is going to fall.
Well, he was only 4th in the first heat, so he leads now, but there are 3 still to go. But
look at this.
Oh, he didn't get in. He didn't get in. That's like the World Championships.
Yeah, he didn't get in. The number 2 guy, he's not in the normal procedure technique. They should be settled and down perfectly. They had 50.3 speed in the first run there, only 49.5.
Look at the smile on his face. Torsten Margis opposite said, what happened? I didn't get my leg in.
I didn't get in.
It was like the 4-man worlds. He caught his foot on the cowl getting in. Okay, 3 to go here. Are we going to see a German winner? We've had 3 German winners in the last 3 years. We've had 10 in the last 10 races here. Oskars Kiebermanis, bronze medalist in the last 2 two-man races, lies 3rd after the first heat.
A fireman and decathlete from Riga, 23 years old. Another decathlete right behind him, Janins Janssens, 49.7.
They know every 100th counts. They went 300s quicker than their first start, but they're still in the red because Friedrich's team started 700s faster than they did.
Clean line so far, down to 100. That's a great sign. Remember, the Germans weren't smooth, didn't have a great velocity at the start.
This would be a massive scalp if Kiebermanis can stay down on the podium.
He's a full kilometer down. He's going to need 118 speed to match here.
He's battling the 4-man world champion, but it was 118 kilometers an hour.
He's got to watch out to fall behind Cripps. He's going to get Cripps. He's going to win. At least a bronze medal.
Behind.
125.1, 5th best.
So he is going to be 2nd at the line. And
bronze medal. It's okay. He'll take that.
Still 2 sleds to go, so he's not guaranteed a medal, but Friedrich is.
That's a medal. That's a medal. I'm telling you now.
Not guaranteed. I hear what you're saying about Maxim Andrianov.
Would you like some odds? Would you like me to bet you right now?
Hey, one thing you never take for granted on Altenberg is that everything finishes the way it starts.
These lines here were pretty good.
Yep.
But his speed into Kreisel wasn't. It was 9/10 down in a kilometer, half a mile an hour. Here, look at the heads, the aerodynamic profiles at the 80-mile-an-hour speeds. Every 100th is important.
Now he is going to overhaul his teammate to become Latvia #1 in the 4-man rankings, and that could be really critical.
His teammate is pretty wounded, though.
Talk about this pressure. Maxim Andrianov of Russia. Third of our starters came down 2nd fastest behind only Niko Walton.
He's never finished better than like 16th or something.
Yeah, and he's 600ths of a second in front of current leader Francesco Friedrich from the first heat.
He was 12th at the last race in Innsbruck, his best finish.
Yeah, one of the best of his career. Andrianov 17th in the World Cup rankings.
So 5:23, 49.4,
in the first heat.
49.2. So, you know, I don't know what kind of afterburners he had in the first heat. I think he just came out.
He had fresh ice.
Fresh ice, number 3, and that moisture in the air reduced the friction perfectly before the track got cut up.
Down to 5th place on the splits. This could be a repeat of the Austrian Marcus Treichel yesterday.
It is a repeat.
He went from 6th to 19th.
Yeah, 114.6. Oh boy, there's a couple variances there.
Well, you look at this drive and you go, how did he even make the first heat?
Yeah, that's
the second heat.
About the draw.
Down to, well, still only in 6th position. And that's the first heat advantage, keeping him afloat.
Hey, this is his best finish ever.
Yeah.
For Maxim Andrianov. Good for him. 7th, still a best finish. The Germans, I still say that Friedrich's got a chance to win a gold.
Yeah. Well, he'll be no worse than 8th, Anjanov. His best result last year was 7th in Whistler. He was 8th in Winterberg and 8th in Koenigsegg. Either way, he had the luck of the draw, and he ran with it.
But the lady is there. That's not the way to do it. 8 to 9, and then he goes that curve, the first replay. Then that shows you the exit, and then the hard hit
it was
on the exit of 9.
Fishtailing down the straight. There was a quarter of a second gone in just that shot.
Personal best.
Yep. And the best Russian finisher here, no, Kazyanov will be. So 1 to go, and it's the man whose evening ended in disappointment yesterday. 3rd at the line, Niko Walton. The sled was then excluded. The opening of the cowl was 3 millimeters too narrow. That he leads.
So Kevin Kuska is on this sled. He's on the sled of Andre Lange, who set the track record here in 2008.
They won the World Championships in the 4-man that day.
Not a very good start, but watch the speed, 49.9. They did not get to that magic 50 number.
Well, Kuska's last win came with Andre Lange in 2009. Niko Walton's came in 2015's race in November, in January.
He's flying away now, so if this goes out to 16, 17, only a crash could prevent him from winning.
Well, you've seen all the flags down at the bottom.
1:15.7. That's not the same speed as Friedrich.
Niko Walton's fan club and Francesco Friedrich's fan club are both here in huge numbers.
Friedrich had 126.5 speed on the exit coming up right here. Down to 7, 125, kilometer down. This is going right to the 100th of a second.
We could have a tie, but who's going to win it? It's Niko Walton who claims victory. 3 years ago he won, 2 years ago Francesco Friedrich won, last year Johannes Lochner won, and now the cycle returns. Niko Walton puts last night's disappointment behind him in the best possible way with 4-man victory on home ice. And the first to congratulate him, the man standing up as they came into the finish area, 2008 world champion brakeman Kevin Kuska, with Christian Poser claiming gold. And there's Eric Franke, the man at 4.
Oh, Niko, nice to have you smile a little bit, huh?
And a congratulations being offered by Francesco Friedrich's crew. They may not be the best of mates, the two drivers, to say the least. They grew up on the same track, and they have been rivals ever since they started this sport.
This one started in luge, though.
Yep. And that's, you know, we were talking about that last night. One of the things that they are working hard, particularly with Leo Leopold, is to turn a luger, where you never run, into a bobsledder, where you always run at the start.
Well, not the best start at the top of the track, but this track isn't about start times. This track is about negotiating these tight, quick turns on this old 30-year-old track, which really challenges the athletes and the equipment. Provides great entertainment to the spectators and to the TV audience. And Niko, I'm with you. Great result coming off the disappointment last night. He could have hung his head and pointing fingers at everybody. He came out here with a clear mind, walked away with the gold.
And the Saxon crowd will be happy. 1-2 for Saxony. Oskars Kibermanis, bronze again, as he was yesterday evening. Justin Cripps, the 2-man winner, takes 4th ahead of Hansi Lochner, and Alexander Kazyanov finally ends up as the top Russian as Maxim Anjanov slips from 2nd down to 8th position. Lamindine in the top 10. And Brad Hall up to 15th place from 19th at the end. So that is it for the race weekend here in Altenberg, as the Germans go 1-2. And Niko Walton claims the win. Well, it's pretty misty here, but nobody will doubt the celebrations for Niko Walton and Francesco Friedrich, the two drivers from Altenberg. They're from different towns, and they have very strong local support here, as you can see. The local town of Pirna, just out to the northeast of the track, is where Francesco Friedrich's Bob Club have come from. There was a few busloads of them shuntling in this morning. They were here in numbers yesterday, the fans. and in very great numbers this afternoon at this Altenberg track. And as we talked about a little earlier in the broadcast, like being in Berchtesgaden, where the Königssee track is, that is the season finale, this is a big sport in a small town. Altenberg is a small rural town, about a 45-minute drive south of Dresden, one of the most beautiful of the Eastern German cities. And this track has been a very big part of the sport. There in the pink jacket, you can just see on the right-hand side, Kathleen Martini, women's bobsleigh world champion a number of times. She's also from Saxony. Her sleds famously were almost always the lime green of Saxony. And in the background, just below the VIP building, you can see the Saxon flag with that leaf green and white. Can't see much else in the background, mind, because the mist from the cold weather and the drizzle coming off the icy surfaces after a little bit of overnight snow. Well, there's Francesco Friedrich and Niko Walton. And we can hear the voice of our colleague Ron Ringuth down there at the finishing area. He'll be chatting to them for the crowd, and finding out what their thoughts are on today's race. Well, definitely the crowd will go home happy with a Saxony 1-2. Round 6 of the BMW IBSF four-man bobsleigh World Cup. Johannes Lochner of Germany finishing in 5th position, but 3 wins this season mean that he is still the World Cup points leader. Niko Walton moves into 2nd ahead of Justin Cripps, with Francesco Friedrich in 4th. Walton was already in 2nd, but continues there as he wins his 2nd four-man race of the season. Niko Walton winning the opener in 2-man and 4-man, and he wins again. So we've now had 6 races and 3 different winners, but we've had 10 different medalists out of the 18 possible medals. Niko Walton, though, the first round leader after disqualification in last night's 2-man race, could have been in a bit of a slump, but he came back out determined to give it his absolute best. As he said to us last night, tomorrow is another day. And so it proved. Victory for the man from Freital, just south of Dresden. So lots of yellow jackets there, but on the right-hand side, the Latvian crew of Oskars Kibermanis. There's Kevin Kuska in the centre of the shot. Won the World Championships here with Andrew Lange in 2008. Won the race here in the 2009-10 season, the pre-Olympic race here in Altenberg. And it's another pre-Olympic race win for Kevin Kuska, this time with Niko Walton. Of course, Andrew Lange went on to claim gold in a number of World Championships with Kevin Kuska. Last year's four-man worlds shared between the man in the blue beanie there with the broad smile, Francesco Friedrich, and Johannes Lochner. First time we've seen a joint four-man gold medal. Well, bronze medal for Oskars Kibermanis, he's 2nd in 2 days. Last year, he got bronze in the 2-man, got bronze in the 2-man again last night after Niko Walton's disqualification, gets bronze in the 4-man. Kibermanis on a rare vein of form. But so too is Niko Walton. And that brings our Altenberg adventures to a close. Next weekend, we're in St. in Switzerland, the oldest, the most historic, and the only remaining natural track on the planet. Can't wait. We'll see you then. Thank you for being with us. For John Morgan and the IBSF TV crew, I'm Martin Haven saying Auf Wiedersehen. We'll see you next weekend in St. Moritz. Goodbye for now.